Yasmin hated to admit it, but she hadn't slept very well the night before. If she had asked Peter, she would have found that he didn't either. But she didn't ask, and neither did he. So they both pretended that they were fine, that they didn't need each other's arms around one another to rest properly. Peter was mostly ready, suit done up nicely, all but the tie complete. Yasmin wasn't so on the ball. "Why won't my freaking hair just curl already?" she said, exasperated. Peter came to stand beside her. She was still in her pajamas, her only accomplishment of the morning being her makeup. I'd try to help, but it would be a disaster. There had been a time Yasmin had tried teaching Peter how to curl hair. The results were nothing but burnt hands and singed hair, prompting the both of them to make a vow that Peter wasn't permitted anywhere near a girl's hair, unless it was to braid it, which was the one thing Peter had mastered. Well, that might not be a bad idea. She got up, grabbing Peter's hand to the bed and made him sit. "What? Braid my hair. Please, we're running out of time," she said, propping down in front of his feet. "All right, I can't promise it will be amazing though," he said, starting out. As he went, Yasmin tried not to feel drowsy. It was relaxing, his fingers running through her hair, brushing against her head, combined with the fact that she was already exhausted from the awful night's sleep, meant she had to pull all of her effort into not falling asleep. As soon as Peter was done, she leapt to her feet, rushing to the bathroom to clean up what she could. He had done a good job. No hair sticking up out of the braid that she could see, and it was even down the middle. She adjusted what needed it, and then ran back out of the room to get the dress. Peter watched Yasmin running around like a chicken with her head chopped off, going from one thing to the next faster than he could even think. He smiled to himself. She'd always been like this when events came up. When they went to homecoming, Peter with Liz and Yasmin with the new kid he hadn't known the name of, he had popped by her house for a moment. She had nearly kicked him out, saying she didn't need another distraction and that she was running late as it is. She let him stay anyway. Finally, Yasmin emerged from the bathroom with the dress on, and Peter sucked in a breath. "You look amazing," he told her as he sat by her on the bed, putting her shoes on. She smiled. "Thanks, Pete. I'm surprised I didn't burn down the place trying to get ready." He laughed and he stood, offering his hand to her once her shoes were on. She took it, looking over him. Were her cheeks red? "Well, you look great too, except one thing." She reached forward, doing up his tie. It brought her closer to him than he'd expected. He bit his lip. Her eyes were concentrated on the tie, failing to notice the way their noses were mere inches apart. She finished, patting his shoulder and looking up to him without moving. "There," she said. "Now we look like a couple." Before he could say anything, she moved back, grabbing his hand and leading him towards the door. They approached the venue, a lovely field framed with trees, and Yasmin couldn't help but feel nervous. Were they really going to pull this off? Peter's hand was already in her own, and sensing her nerves, he gave it a squeeze. She looked at him gratefully before dragging him into the battlefield. It was only moments before they were practically swarmed. "Yasmin, is this your boyfriend? Hi, I'm Yasmin's favorite aunt. You look so cute together." Peter handled it well. He slung an arm around Yasmin's waist. She tried to keep a straight face and used his other one to shake those of her families. Before long, Yasmin's parents showed up. "Peter!" Yasmin's mother said happily. Peter let go of Yasmin to be embraced. "What did we always say to you two?" Yasmin laughed a bit. "Well, you were right, I'll give you that," she said, grabbing Peter's hand by instinct once he was free. His father gave him a pat on the back. "How long are you two up here?" he asked. "We leave the day after tomorrow. Wanted to have some time to relax," Yasmin answered. "What do you say you come for dinner tomorrow night?" Yasmin opened her mouth to reply, but Peter beat her to it. "Sure, we'd love to." Her dad gave him the details, and soon after, people were rushing to their seats. "Oh, I gotta stand up front," Yasmin said, leading Peter to where he would be sitting next to her parents. He nodded. "All right, good luck." Then he kissed her on the cheek. As she strode up to her position, the spot his lips touched burned in the best way. He made it all seem so natural, like they really were together. He didn't seem to have any restraints on holding her close, like she was his. She'd be lying if she said she didn't like it. Standing up front, she noticed that as Tessa walked down the aisle, every eye was on her. Every eye except for Peter's. Peter tried his best not to fumble over answers to Yasmin's parents' questions. The physical stuff was easy, albeit a little painful. It was comfortable to have Yasmin that close. She didn't seem hesitant about it, which just made everything that he wanted seem so close it almost tore him apart. Before the ceremony began, Peter found himself accompanied by Yasmin's parents, mostly her father. He knew them well from when they were kids, and it had already been said that they very much approved of him. They talked about this and that, but soon the music had started and Peter had no more distractions. Instead, he could do nothing but stare at Yasmin standing before him. He couldn't tell you what the vows were. He couldn't tell you that the groom had nearly dropped the ring. He couldn't tell you that Tessa had launched herself into her new husband's arms the moment she was told she could. What he could tell you was how Yasmin's eyes crinkled in the corner when she smiled, that she blinked back tears at 2 points during the ceremony, that she clapped harder than anyone else when the new couple was announced. He could tell you how beautiful she looked the entire time she stood up there. As the sun began to set, the reception began. Peter got up to graduate the couple alongside Yasmin. Tessa jumped forward, attacking Yasmin in a hug. "You look absolutely beautiful," Yasmin said, hugging the bride tightly. Tessa pulled back, wiping tears from her eyes. "So do you! I was almost afraid you'd show me up." Yasmin laughed, only getting louder when Peter found himself in Tessa's tight hold, quickly hugging her back. "You're Peter, right?" "Yep, that's me," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "You picked a hottie, Yasmin?" Peter blushed alongside Yasmin, and Tessa giggled. "I'm expecting cute nieces and nephews after you tie the knot. Got it? Now go enjoy yourself. It's my job to stand here while people tell me I look great." They went to an empty table, faces still red after Tessa's comments. The evening wore on, several family members coming to sit by them, introducing themselves and chatting for a while. Peter learned a lot of great stories about Yasmin for blackmail. Soon, with the stars shining above them, it was time for the couple's first dance. The groom led the bride to the middle of the clearing, and to a sad, slow song, they held each other. It wasn't long until others began to join. Peter stood, offering his hand to Yasmin. "Care to dance?" Smiling, she took it and let him lead her out. His hands rested on her waist, so gentle, like he was afraid she'd disappear. Her arms hooked around his neck, pressing herself just a bit closer to him. And they smiled. For a while, they chatted. Tessa, being ever the romantic, had filled the playlist full of slow dances. Yasmin didn't complain as one moved to the next, finding herself getting closer and closer to Peter, resting her head on his chest, arms holding her. There were no more words between them, just the feeling of this moment. This feeling where nothing else was there except them. And that was all that mattered. Yasmin could stay forever in that moment, memorizing the heartbeat that pounded in her ear, the music that kept them tied together. She realized that she didn't want to leave Peter. Not now, not ever. She didn't want him to let go. And he didn't. Not when the last song ended, not when the bride and groom said their farewells, Not when they got to the hotel, not when they faded, falling asleep closer than they had ever been. Without a word, something had changed between them. Yasmin didn't know what it was, but she liked it. She liked it a lot. Peter was mostly wetty. He was mostly wetty.
Yasmin, is this your boyfriend?
Ha, I'm Yasmin's favorite, and I like guns. Pow pow. What? He couldn't tell you that the groom had nearly dropped the wing. The wing, ooh woo. What is with the W's and the O's and the what? Let me just shut up and eat my tortilla chips.